Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
8:06 on this Friday morning in your nation's capital. Not just any Friday, it's the 5th of July, coming off of our Independence Day celebration yesterday, where I for one, we will not let the Democrat power leadership, the Biden administration, the cabinet, the vice president, the media, highly ranked members of Congress, we won't let them ever forget that they have participated in a cover-up of monumental proportions.
Yes.
That's the bottom line here. Don't blame Jill. Don't blame Hunter. They all know and they all saw, and they deceived the American people. They attempted to until they couldn't do it anymore. Just want to remind everybody of that. Coming up at 8:35, Hollywood in Toto. It's Connor. Excuse me. It's Christian Toto who's going to be joining us about the movies. I said Connor, Patrice Onwuka.
Yes.
Here. Good morning, Patrice.
Happy Friday, everybody.
Thank you. Our guest now is Connor Boyack.
Mm-hmm.
Connor Boyack. Any parent knows, well, they may not know Connor's name, but they know his product, the Tuttle Twins. And Connor, thanks for joining us, and thanks for creating the Tuttle Twins and the great animated version of it that is on that's Angel Studios presentation, is it not?
It is. Good morning. Thanks for having me. And yeah, we feel like we're on a mission to try and restore some sanity to help parents teach their kids truth in a world swimming full of lies these days.
Amen to that across the board. And I want to talk about the new books that you've got, the American history books that you have. But I, in general, when people find out who you are and what you've done with the Tuttle Twins, you must. It's just, I got to think it's got to be a dream come true, knowing the lives that you touch exponentially. Not just teaching them to read, but the subject matter and the topics that families are reading with their children. I get emotional when I think about being in your place, knowing the lives that you have touched and the children that you are helping to form.
I'll concede that it is a deeply fulfilling aspect of my work to just hear these stories, to get the emails and the DMs and so forth from parents who are grateful. And part of it for me is I see a lot of our work as seed planting, right? So maybe mom says, hey, I had an amazing conversation with my kids. Thanks to your books. Thanks so much. Great. That's nice. We love getting messages like that. But the seed planting aspect is we're not really going to see the fruit of that effort for another 10, 20, 30 years. Imagine a generation of leaders, of elected officials, of activists, of voters who have been raised on these stories, these ideas, learning about our nation's past, learning about true principles. To me, I get excited for a future that hasn't yet arrived, to think if we plant a million seeds today, what does our world look like 2 decades from now? That's kind of what keeps us more motivated, more than the short-term gratitude and so forth, which is nice. I get excited thinking about the future.
Well, that's beautiful. And, it's so important that we start to foster an appreciation for America, for its founding fathers, and for its unique role in the world, and even the laws and the ethos that inspired so much of what we've become. I would love for you to talk about it. I'm reading here. It's so interesting when you think about how few kids have that appreciation, but they see lots of dates, and you're told to memorize, the George Washingtons and the dates. How do your stories really fill in the gaps and put the flesh on the bones of the figures that we can rattle their names off, but we don't necessarily explain what their significance was to kids?
Such an important question. A few years ago, our team bought a whole bunch of social studies, history textbooks that were used in, let's say, about 80% of the schools across the country. The McGraw-Hills, all the kind of textbooks that are used. We reviewed all of these to see how are they teaching about the Constitution, the Revolutionary War, the Bill of Rights, and so forth. And the very short version is that all of these books did a phenomenal job. If your goal is that your child might be on Jeopardy in 30 years and know some random factoid about what happened, on a particular day, if you want to cram their minds full of all these little factoids, great. Those textbooks are awesome. Where all of the textbooks failed was teaching the substantive side of history, the
Hey,
ideas,
parents, kids
values, the philosophies, helping them understand some of these principles. So that's why we decided to write our books. We've got 2 American history books, and we said, look, obviously as history books, we have to teach what happened and when, and we have to go over some of these things that a history book would. But we are going to focus on the ideas. We want a kid to understand in 2024 why the things that happened 250 years ago are even relevant today. Who cares about what happened back then? So in our books, we share hey, great, Congress debated this. Oh, here's a modern example where they're debating something similar. And suddenly they can see, oh, wow, okay, the things that they talked about back then have relevance to our lives today.
Yeah, connecting those dots. And by the way, you may have just heard some audio there pop through. It's because I went to TotalTwins.com and a video automatically starts playing. But I always like to go to the website that I encourage other people to go to, TotalTwins.com, where you can learn about these books and the why behind them. Because you talk about planting seeds. The fact of the matter is the people who are behind all of those other curriculum books that you've just laid out there that are in our government-run schools, and even private commercial sold books, story books that you see at your local bookstore, they're planting seeds too. But there are different kind of seeds. They might not be the seeds that most parents would actually like planted with their children. To pull the thread on what you just said in terms of connecting the dots about the past in history and where we are now, I find it so brilliant and fascinating that in telling the story of America with your America History series here, you didn't start with, the Mayflower. You didn't start with Christopher Columbus. You went all the way back to the Silk Road. But explain to people how that is all connected, how America's founding is really part of a much larger story about human development and world history.
Well, we started working on these America's History books at a time when the 1619 Project was kind of on the scene and everyone's talking about it. And so our team kind of was talking and reflecting, what could we pin as the true starting year? And as you said, maybe, Mayflower, we could, 1776, if you're talking to Ron Swanson, that's when, America began. But we said, we really think that if you go back in time and you can see the domino effect, the consequences of past actions, the Silk Road is where a lot of this started. Why? Because the bustling trade in the 1200s along the Silk Road financially incentivized people to go explore faraway lands and bring back spices and treasures and all kinds of unique things. And that financial incentive, that free trade that was really starting to explode, those explorers would leave, but some of them would stay. So they turned into colonists. Then, that led to colonization across the world. Colonization is what led to, among other places, the Americas. And so we like the story to say, America's founding really begins in the desire for improving your life, the free trade, looking for opportunity, challenging yourself, ambition. That is a far more positive and productive narrative about who we are and who America ought to be, rather than this 1619 nonsense of just saying we're evil people and the system is corrupt and let's burn it all down.
Yeah, I'm starting to get very uncomfortable now, Patrice. That sounded like a very Eurocentric view of things. And Connor Boyack, the creator of Total Twins, Patrice, just said colonization as if it wasn't 100% evil.
No, this is excellent. So, what can we look forward to next? What are the next books in the pipeline?
That's right. Stop resting on your laurels, Connor. Bring us a new book. Come on.
We've got over 30 books from toddlers to teens, and so there's quite a wide range. In fact, right now we have an Independence Day sale, TuttleTwins.com/history on those books, if anyone's interested. We're actually next month coming out with a book I think both of you will appreciate, attacking cultural Marxism. So this will be the
wonderful
book in our children's series, and it takes place at a track meet where the crazy lady in charge starts rewarding all kinds of identity aspects of the kids' backgrounds that have nothing to do. Trophies are given out to kids who shouldn't get them. And so what we talk about in the book is the importance of merit. Let's talk about, why merit is important, why we should work hard, why we should celebrate accomplishment and achievement. So that book comes out next month. I think it's going to upset a few people, which is what we like to do at the Tuttle Twins.
Wonderful. Oh my gosh, I can't wait.
I do love the crazy lady character is we see you, we know what you're doing. All right, TuttleTwins.com, TuttleTwins.com. Such a pleasure to meet you in this way over the radio, and let us know how we can be a part of your growth and what you're doing, because it's great stuff.
Sounds good. Thanks to you both.
Thank you so much.
TotalTwins.com and the animated series over at Angel Studios, which you might be familiar with. That's where you first got to know and love The Chosen. It's now 8:16.
Mark Levin, weekdays 6 till 9 p.m.
On News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
Making sense of the news.
Yes, we do like to focus on the kids in America, and that's why we do once again reiterate that the Toto Twins, that's a great series, and we're very happy that Connor was able to join us there and talk about this brand new American history series as well. All right, let's move on to the president. Here he is on a Philadelphia radio. They're really focusing on Philadelphia. They want to carry Pennsylvania, and honestly,
they need it.
The only way he does is to do what he did last time, which is rack up the votes, whether they're legit or not, in Philadelphia. So here he is on a radio station. Patrice, maybe you can help me out with this, because it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But he's the president, so it's got to be right. Oh, here he is.
By the way, I'm proud to be, as I said, the first vice president, first black woman to serve with a black president.
Did Joe Biden just say he was the first black woman to serve with the black president? Is he identifying as a black woman now? Is this like a transition that we should know about?
Oh, my goodness. I think he muddled so many different firsts. He forgot that he was the vice president of the first black president, not the black woman president, black president. And then he nominated the first black female vice president. But his mind is so jumbled that they're all one and the same. That's not, and the who's saying, no, correct the president. I'm sorry, correct him.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
right, exactly. The radio host should be saying, I'm sorry, what, could you clarify that, please? I don't understand that. But again, that's the media participating in the cover-up and acting like everything's fine. Also, it should be pointed out, this is a urban radio station in Philadelphia where he's trying to get votes. So, of course, he basically begins the interview by saying, hello, black people. Let me tell you all of the black things that I've done for the blacks. You know,
and my black friends.
Yes. Oh, some of my best friends are blacks because I'm a black woman. I mean, none of it makes any sense.
By the way, I'm proud to be, as I said, the first vice president, first black woman to serve with a black president. I'm proud of the first black woman in the Supreme Court. There's just so much that we can do, because
there's so much I've done as the whitest man in America to make you black people happy. So what the hell is your problem? All right, so we have that. We also have Kamala Harris yesterday introducing Joe Biden at the July 4th event.
Our commander-in-chief, the president of the United States.
Where she almost called him the vice president. Then Joe Biden got on the microphone and thought he was at the Christmas tree lighting. I don't know where to go with that. Also, heavily slurring in front of a captive audience of members of the military and their families, where they're supposed to be celebrating Independence Day, and not getting political and make vicious, deceitful snipes at his political opponent in front of an audience that is not allowed to, by direct order, be involved in a partisan fashion in politics because they're the military, and he does this.
You know, I was in that World War I cemetery in France, and the one that one of our colleagues, the former president, didn't want to go and be up there. I probably shouldn't even say it anyway. We got to just remember who the hell we are. We're the United States of America.
It is just a pathetic, bitter, angry old man. And then finally, later on, as he was rambling off script.
And by the way, I've been all over the world with you. I've been in and out of battles anyway.
The president has mashed potatoes for brains. His brain is, in fact, broken because of the aforementioned mashed potatoes. He is incapacitated, and yet the lie and cover-up continues. And one just wonders how they're going to get out of this, Patrice, because I have no doubt now he will not be the nominee. The only question is, how do they do it?
They'll have Vice President Harris go in and say, Joe, we did it, but it's over. Time for you to step aside.
Bloodless
By the
coup.
way, I just saw on X an interesting thread, an interview with Willie Brown, who is Kamala Harris's former paramour. and boss.
Well, no, that's impossible because she worked for him, and he was married, so that would be completely inappropriate.
Well,
I'm
you
sure
fill
that's
in the
an
blanks
unfounded
on that. But the point is, he said she's a brilliant tactician and that she's going to be president. He said this back in 2020. So at this point, I believe they're going to just put her in there. There's no way around it for many reasons. It's going to be Kamala Harris. So next up. We'll see when it happens.
Perhaps, but the other part of this story is that donors are fleeing in droves. In fact, they're saying that they refuse to give any money to the Biden campaign. Now, some of them are asking for a refund, which I find hilarious. Ari Emanuel, a brother of Rahm Emanuel and a major Hollywood mogul, he was at the Aspen Ideas Institute. He talked about this very thing, but then talked about the legal issues involved in 3 states in particular, Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania.
And so we're looking at a man who's saying the other guy's a liar, and he's telling us malarkey. His people are telling us malarkey. But we're in a very bad problem. He is not the candidate anymore. I mean, if you all remember, this is a legal issue now. He was going to get kicked off the ballot in Ohio. They elected him the candidate. So you no longer can remove him. In 3 swing states, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan, there's only one Democratic Congress, Michigan. They have to vote to remove him. I don't believe the Republican Party in Pennsylvania and in Wisconsin are going to do that. Okay, and if they do, it's then Kamala Harris.
What he's trying to say is it would require an act of legislature in Pennsylvania and Wisconsin to change the ballot now, and that means Republicans would have to cooperate, and
they're not likely to do it.
They're not likely to do that. And even if you do, it's got to be Kamala Harris. So
it's got to be. Well, just finally, tonight's the big night for the big interview between President Biden and George Stephanopoulos, former Clinton hack. I can't wait for Monday when you and Julie just tear apart every clip from that, because even in a scripted, highly edited interview, I think it's going to be bad.
I think it will be bad too, and it's why they're not going to release the full unedited video. This is only going to be under the conditions that they agreed to. It has to be pre-recorded and edited. But let me, because everyone's saying, "Oh, George Stephanopoulos is going to do whatever he can to make Biden look good." Not necessarily. Understand, George Stephanopoulos is not a journalist. He's not a television host. He is a party apparatchik. He is a propagandist. His job, once he left left the Clinton White House and joined ABC News, has been the same job. And that is to manipulate the media to tell a message and story that bolsters the Democrats whenever they need it. It's quite possible that the word will come down that the best way to help Democrats is to make Joe Biden look awful. And the editing that the editing that ABC News does might actually accentuate it and make him look worse. They have the power either way. If it's determined by Barack Obama and the donors and the big power structure that the only way forward is to keep Biden on the ticket, then you're right, Patrice. They're going to edit it no matter what it takes. They will give 14 edits in a 5-second window if they have to. It'll look like a jump cut from some 16-year-old's TikTok video, but they'll do that to make him look coherent. But if the word comes down saying this is it, it's over for Joe, then this Stephanopoulos interview will be the end. They will edit it to make him look even worse than he is, and then the narrative will be, even in an interview with George Stephanopoulos, he's a disaster, and then he's out the door. Either way, you're right. Tonight's interview, critical.
And Monday's show, listening to you and Julie take it apart, even more important.
It might be fun.
Absolutely. All right, it's 8:27. Whoa, let's get to Jamie Whitman.
I went on and on and on.
Now,
on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
At 8:36 now. It's O'Connor and Company coming up. It's the Chris Plant Show, but we've still got plenty of holiday discussions here, and most specifically, Patrice, about going to the movies, which a lot of people do. And certainly it's a good way to beat the heat with the heat index going over 100
for a couple
degrees.
hours, absolutely.
So you've got children. You said earlier in the program that you have now made it so your kids can sit through a movie in the theater.
Hallelujah. Yes. Now, my husband and I, we were knocked out in the middle of the movie sleeping, but the 4 and 5-year-olds, they were troopers. They were watching. So this is
well,
great.
if you've got kids and you want to take them to the movies, this seems like the weekend for you because, of course, you still have Inside Out 2, which has now hit $1 billion at the box office. Looks like Disney has bounced back a bit there. And you've got this new Despicable Me movie coming out. This is the 4th one with the Minions. Christian Toto is the host of the Hollywood and Toto podcast and the great website Hollywood and Toto. He joins us now. Hey, Christian, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
I guess it's all about animation, right? It's all about getting families out and kids out to see cartoon characters because that seems to be the big movies that are coming.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer this time of the year. You talked about the air conditioning. You talked about kids out of school. It's a perfect combination, and this year is delivering. The box office has been pretty weak up until recently, but boy, everyone is checking out Inside Out 2. It is charming. It is fun, so I totally get it. And I have to say, I am resistant to the Minions, but I am in the minority there because everybody loves Despicable Me characters. So the 4th one is doing quite well. I haven't seen it yet, but I think that's perfectly critic-proof.
I understand people who love the Minions and they annoy the hell out of me. Honestly, I cannot stand it.
Oh, come on, Larry. Oh, who doesn't love those yellow guys?
No.
Okay,
just wait. Okay, Patrice. Okay. Just wait until your children start acting like minions around the house, and you will want to.
Well, they already do sometimes, so there you go. So, Christian, actually, my family and I, we did see Inside Out 2. It was really fun. Lots of good messages in it. But I miss the big blockbuster blow-em-up movies. Maybe I still have nostalgia for Independence Day. Right. What is going to feed my appetite? Is there anything coming up that us who want to see blow-ups and body limbs blown up to pieces, what can we look forward to?
You know, right now we're a little light on that. The upcoming Deadpool and Wolverine might partially solve that problem. I think the closest you'll get is the new Quiet Place, and that's a prequel, A Quiet Place Day One, which is the first days that the aliens took over that made us all go, so that one has some of that, but even that movie, which I thought was pretty good, it was a well-constructed prequel, it's a little bit more introspective, and you'd think you're really following this main character who is dying of cancer and trying to survive in this hellscape. And so it's a little bit more intimate than you expect, but again, it does have some of that rock and sock summer action that you're craving.
How about this Kevin Costner movie? Horizon American Saga Chapter 1, which suggests there will be more chapters. What's that all about?
Yeah, you know, it's a 4-part Western. It is wildly ambitious. It got terrible reviews when it played at the Cannes Film Festival. I don't quite get it. It has some flaws for sure, and you don't see Kevin Costner for the first full hour of the movie. It's 3 hours long, by the way. But I thought it was a very well-constructed Western. I thought it had some of the tropes in there. I thought it was fresh. I thought it was very interesting. It did feel a little bit like episodic TV in a way, like good TV. And again, it is 4 parts, and he may not have money to make 3 and 4. Part 2 is already coming, I believe, next month. But if you like Westerns, I can't imagine you're not enjoying Horizon. I think it's a really good entry in that field.
So, you know, I think a lot of us loved Eddie Murphy and Beverly Hills Cop, and it sounds like there's going to be a new show on Netflix. Is it a show or a movie?
It's a movie, you know, and
Okay.
it's really a shame that it's not in theaters because it has that action-comedy mix that works so well. And I have to say, you can't not be cynical about this project. It's been forever since we've seen this character. The last 2 sequels weren't great. What is Eddie Murphy doing? But I have to say, I was charmed by it. It's called Beverly Hills Cop Axel F. It is exclusively on Netflix, so you can stay at home because if you have your own air conditioning, you're good to go. And it brings back most of the old cast.
Oh, wow.
And it works. It really does. You know, he has still got it. I think he's about 63 now. And it acknowledges the passage of time. There's a lot of nostalgia here, but to me, it felt a little bit like Top Gun Maverick. It's not that good, but where they actually tell a good story and hold on its own, and it has all those nostalgia moments that you crave. So I think it fires on a lot of cylinders. And again, I just love Eddie Murphy on the screen. He's about as funny as you get. And so anytime you get a chance to see him and it's not a clunker, you check it out.
Hold on, I will have to check it out because that's the '80s. That's my wheelhouse. Absolutely.
There you go. Yes.
Is Bronson Pinchot back in it? Is he? Did they bring his
Serge?
character? Sarge.
And you couldn't have a Beverly Hills Cop without.
Oh my! I'm just going to watch for Sarge. I love that.
There you go.
I love. Also, I'm going to go for all the glimpses of Detroit. I mean, it was a great thing to see all the great Lions shirts and Tiger shirts that Eddie Murphy wore. All right, I got to ask you, Christian, because of course Hollywood and Toto is about the intersection of Hollywood and politics, and we're hearing from major players in Hollywood political donor class, from Abigail Disney to Ari Emanuel, saying we're done with Biden. We're going to withhold our money and our donations until they make a change at the top of the ticket. How ticked off are they? They're acting like they didn't see what was happening right before their eyes.
Well, the media they consumed told them that there's nothing wrong, nothing to see here, move along. And all of a sudden they have to realize what's going on in the White House. I think I am most eager to see how late night TV reacts to this, because most, if not all, the shows have been on vacation. I think Kimmel goes away for several weeks this time of the year. How are they going to respond? I mean, Jimmy Kimmel and Stephen Colbert told us as of a few weeks ago, he's fine. It's all deep fakes, cheap fakes. You name the phrase.
Yeah.
Now they have to face what reality, that they're going to probably change the person at the top of the ticket, and that what they've been telling you for 2 to 3 years has been complete gaslighting. How do they pivot from that? They will. I mean, the media's doing it right now, but how do they change that? But yeah, Hollywood's in disarray, and you don't blame them.
Christian Toto's a good friend, an old friend, and a great observer of the pop culture and politics. Please check out his podcast, Hollywood in Toto. Thanks, Christian. Have a happy holiday with your family.
Thanks, you too.
It is a terrifying episode of Critters News. In fact, we should bring in Critter News just to lighten the mood here, because it's summertime and anytime you hear the Jaws theme, it's a bad deal. But you should link both of them together, because we have 4 people injured in a 4th of July shark attack. Multiple attacks in Texas and in Florida. One person suffered a severe shark bite to the leg after 3 others were attacked off South Padre Island in Texas. 21-year-old man bitten in the water off New Smyrna Beach, Florida. I've seen this movie, and I know how it ends. We got to get a bigger boat, Patrice.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, man. So one of the people who was attacked, she was a woman, and apparently when they were lifting her out of the water, her leg was just shredded. Her calf was gone, one of the witnesses said. So, yikes. Can you really what can you do to protect yourself against a shark bite? There's really nothing you can do.
Well, there's one thing you can do, and I'm shocked that it didn't happen here, because this happened in Texas. How was the person in the ocean not packing? Right? I mean, I am
under
actually
the bikini
shocked.
string, right?
What kind of Texan goes swimming in the ocean without bringing, some sort of firearm for protection? It's 8:53.